Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Koi. As you know, in this broadcast, we have been doing a series where we're inviting early career researchers uh, who are working with different topics and different aspects of Earth observation, and we're trying to bring forth sort of the stories behind the research and how. The fine tuning of the research and how we can improve more on that and learn more about that. Ideally, we also focus a bit more on the sort of like the advice or the journey of a researcher and how, as aspiring researchers, we can also sort of learn from the researcher's journey. So, for today's podcast, we are going into the world of susceptibility mapping. So, as you know, that flooding is one of the major disasters, which is integrally related. It's a global disaster. It has a lot of different forms. So, it is definitely a global phenomena, and therefore, in different parts of the world, it is very vital uh, to improve on flood susceptibility mapping. So, for talking about that today, we have Tania Islam, who is a PhD candidate in Florida International University in the Department of Earth and Environment. So, today we are going to uh, learn more about Tania and her latest paper, which is titled A Systematic Review of Urban Flood Susceptibility Mapping, Remote Sensing, Machine Learning, and Other Modeling Approaches. So this is our latest paper that just came out, uh, and we're going to try to discuss and learn more about it from Tania. Uh, so moving on, Tania, I'd like to give you the floor and sort of maybe give a brief introduction about yourself. Uh, how did you get into this research of flood sustainability mapping and your overall background? So, yeah.
Thank you, Monojit, for having me. Hi, everyone. I'm Tania, and I completed my undergrad in University of Dhaka in Geography department, just like Monojit. And I started my master's in 2021 in Florida International University. However, after 2 semesters, I switched to a PhD program. In my PhD, I always wanted to work in extreme weather events. As I'm doing PhD in Florida International University, which is located in Miami, so it's all of hurricanes, floods, all the extreme weather events is here. Yeah, I started working in urban flooding, which is right now it's a very major global event because due to the effect of global warming, we are experiencing different, very intense rainfall. And on top of that, a lot of people are moving into urban areas because of better lifestyle, higher economic opportunities and everything. Urban flooding is a major global event because of all these issues. In my research, I'm focusing on urban flood susceptibility mapping so that we can understand what are the different areas are mostly susceptible in urban regions and how we can better predict like which areas will be highly vulnerable in different types of rainfall events and yeah to tackle the challenges and to reduce future losses due to urban flooding.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much for that introduction. So gradually, I'd like to highlight the part about your paper and why it's important. Uh, we know that just understanding anything about like a particular topic, like when someone who is starting off as a researcher, review papers are so important to sort of get an understanding of like the latest developments in a field and what kind of technologies are being implemented. So, first of all, congratulations to you that you have taken this initiative to do a review paper, which is going to be valuable for a lot of different researchers who are trying to sort of learn more about this technique and the different techniques which are used. So, so moving on, like, do you want to share a bit more about your paper and what are some of the interesting findings that that you got from the paper?
Yeah, that would be wonderful. I have a couple of slides that I want to share. That would be so. What is urban flood susceptibility? So in a short form, in urban areas, getting a lot of inundation due to higher heavy rainfall, or in urban areas are built a lot of built up environment that creates a lot of impervious surface areas, and that overwhelms the drainage system. So that creates flooding in a very short amount and in a very short period of time. So, urban flood susceptibility mapping, it's a major concern, because if you can map what are the different areas we're going to be susceptible in different amount of rain. So for example, 10 inches of rain, 15 inches of rain, or which areas usually get highly susceptible in major urban areas, so that we can reduce, future losses. We can plan in urban areas. So that is the main focus of urban flood susceptibility mapping. So recently, we just published a paper in a review paper about urban flood susceptibility mapping, in where our main focus was to understand what are the different parameters, what are the different data sets, and different methodologies people have been using for urban flood susceptibility mapping. So moving on, before I move into my paper, I want to share a statistics that what are the current research perspective about urban flood susceptibility mapping. So as you can see, from 2012 to 2024, there is an ongoing, very uptrend research work have been going on, because nowadays urban flood susceptibility is a major concern. I just mentioned that due to global warming, our rainfall events have been altered. So we are experiencing a lot of rainfall and different intensity of rainfall in a very short period of time. So that is creating a problem in urban dynamics, because urban areas are a lot of built up environments, streets, pavements, parking lots, and when rainfall happens on top of those in impervious surface areas, so there is no way water can go unless the drainage system is very advanced, or well maintained. So nowadays, researchers are focusing more in urban flood susceptibility mapping. As you can see, from 2012 to 2024, there is an uptrend of urban flood susceptibility research. And in our research, we are trying to focusing on identifying different parameters, different data sets, and different approaches that people have been using in their research. So in terms of parameters, as you can see, we have reviewed more than 100 papers, and we have seen researchers have been mostly using slope, elevation, land cover, rainfall, and different other parameters to understand what are the situations of urban flood susceptibility mapping on a specific area. However, researchers have been using like 10 to 15 different parameters, not more than that, because when any model or any different approaches, you use like more than 20, 50 parameters, that will going to create a multicollinearity issue, or it can create other different problems. So also, it also depends on the study area. So characteristics of the study area, hydrology of the study area, availability of the data. So it all depends on these different factors. And if you move on to the different approaches, so also it depends like what are the different availability of data sets. However, right now there is an uptrend of using machine learning data sets, because using machine learning, we can predict, we can train the model so that it can give us better prediction. So people have been using analytical hierarchy process, different machine learning approaches, statistical methods, as you can see in the chart. One thing that I want to mention, that different data sets, approaches, and parameters, it also varies in study area, availability of the data, and different hydrological aspect. So, just to give one example of the data set. So if you want to do urban flood susceptibility mapping in Miami-Dade County, which is a very, very developed region, there is no problem. We can get like very high resolution data. We can get historical flood data, historical flood points. We can get different precipitation data. So we can use machine learning models in this background. However, if we want to do urban flood susceptibility mapping in a developing region, so for say somewhere in Asia maybe, or somewhere in Africa, where data availability is not is very scarce. So on those regions, it will be very difficult to run machine learning model because you will need a historical flood data. You will need, a big data set to train your model. And also for the parameters that I also want to mention, that a lot of the researchers have been giving importance in slope, elevation, land use, land cover. However, slope, elevation, all the parameters also depend on the characteristics of the study area. So for example, if an urban region is located near to the mountainous region, it will be very helpful to using slope and elevation, or aspect, those kind of parameters, because that can hold a lot of information about the how water is moving from uphill to downhill, how much time it's going on. However, if you want to do urban flood susceptibility in an urban region which is really nearly flat, for example Miami-Dade County, it will not gonna hold, like slope and elevation will not gonna hold a lot of information. So again, depending on the parameter, depending on the approaches, there is no unique or one set of parameters or one set of approaches that we can use. It all depends on the characteristics of the study area, depending on the availability of the data. And also, there is another thing, that remote sensing data. So also remote sensing data, what type of remote sensing data, what resolution do we want to use? It also depends on the size of the, on the desired output. So for say, if we want to do urban flood susceptibility in a very big region, so maybe we can consider 30 meters, 15 meters resolution data set. However, if the study area is a small amount, so for example, for a specific county, for a specific, smaller region, so we can definitely consider 1 meter, 5 meter resolution LiDAR data on different types of data, or to more precisely get the output. And moving on to my another future project. So we just published the review paper, and in my next project we will try to understand what are the different areas that will be susceptible in urban flooding in Miami-Dade County. So yeah, maybe we're gonna learn about that project. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing about the review paper. So first of all, I'd like to sort of touch base on sort of how important getting like like an overview of what techniques are being used, uh, and which are more important, or like which are more widely used in by researchers. So just a curious question, like uh, so how different is a flood like which is in an urban area compared to like other regions? What I'm thinking of is like how is it different than like different other areas? Just from curiosity.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, if flood happening, and there are different types of flooding, like a fluvial flooding, compound flooding, which can happen like 2 or 3 more triggering factors. However, urban flooding is very complex, I would say, because, flood happening in a very densely populated area where areas are morely cemented, made of concrete. And, it creates another layer of challenges in flooding. The simple definition of flooding, like extreme amount of rainfall happening and there is no way water can go. However, in urban setting, the main problem happens like when rainfall happens in a short period of time, a lot of rainfall, there is no way water can go away because all the areas are concrete. There is a lot of population, and sometimes drainage system can get very overwhelming, and it creates another layer of challenges because however you maintain the drainage system, if the drainage system is not well maintained, there will be flooding like at some point. So I think urban flooding is little bit different than another flooding, just because of the land use land cover pattern. Because in another flooding you can so for example, if you want to map urban flood susceptibility in a different other than urban region, you can consider, okay, land use land cover, we can see there is agricultural land, there is barren land, there is roads and pavements. So you will see like areas closer to the agricultural field, areas closer to the, green lands, there will be less flooding because water can easily get through the ground. And, in urban areas, it's mostly cemented area. So it's very complex, I guess.
Right. Yeah, no, that definitely that definitely is a major factor of why urban flooding is way more important to manage, right? Because it's also like it's usually like the most populated areas where the flooding occurs, and therefore like it's so vital to sort of get that impact. Uh Another question is I know that you already talked about it, that, and we do realize that like flooding. So, for example, if I say, like, for example, a city like Dhaka, it's the urban flooding context, or will be very different to sort of Miami that you're working with. Uh, so, if you just can expand a bit more on that how this like one size fits all policy doesn't work for a lot of these machine learning and also remote sensing models, and why is it important to be aware of like the study area that you're working with?
Well, yeah, that's also a good question. So, if you want to do, depending on the, as I already mentioned, like depending on the study area, your approach, your parameters, your data set can gonna be very different. So, just like Miami-Dade County, Dhaka is also a very small city with a lot of population and, all the streets, pavements, and built-up environments. So, I think, yeah, like I'm not sure like if you get historical flood data in weather system or how accurate will this gonna be. But yes, if we just get historical flood data, good amount of precipitation data, for example, like maybe previous rainfall data, hourly, daily rainfall data, I think it will be possible to map urban flood susceptibility in Dhaka city using machine learning models. I also want to make sure about the mention about the parameters. Just like Miami-Dade County, Dhaka is also mostly flat. However, there are a couple of areas in Dhaka, I believe, like where they made like a little bit elevated to make sure that next apartments or buildings don't get flooded. So I think other than Miami-Dade County in Dhaka City, if you want to map urban flood susceptibility on this region, slope and elevation can hold like a little bit more information than Miami-Dade County. So yes, parameter-wise, it will be a little bit different than Miami-Dade County.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for sharing your insights on that. And then, in general, where do you see what are your like key takeaways from this research? Like, if you want to highlight like 2 points that you want to sort of is like key takeaways from the review paper, what would those be?
Okay. So yeah, for key points. So just to get a background, so when I started working in urban flood susceptibility mapping in Miami-Dade County, I was looking for review papers. Like, okay, what are the parameters should I use? What are the methodologies should I use? Should I use machine learning? Should I use, statistical logistic regression? Should I use AHP? Or what are the data sets should I use? So yes, I think this review paper, the main motivation was to give an idea what are the different data set parameters and approaches should I use. So one key point can be there is no unique parameter, there is no unique methods or approaches, data set, there is nothing. However, there are different suitability depending on the study area, depending on the desired outcome, depending on the hydrology of the study area, depending on the dynamics of the study area. So yes, like if you have a lot of data set, if you have historical data, if we have accurate precipitation and land is land cover data, we can use machine learning models to get better outcome. If we don't have all those data scarcity, we can use statistical models. AHP is very popular right now in research community. For the parameters, it solely depends on study area characteristics that I already mentioned, like depending on your study area. If your study area related closer to the mountainous region, if your study area receives seasonal rainfall, or if your study area receives all year base of rainfall, or depending on this, and also based on the remote sensing data, And one thing I forget to mention that there is a Sentinel data which can, penetrate the cloud cover. So, for example, in Miami-Dade County, when rain happens, in summer, there happens a lot of rain. So on those rainy season, all the sky is mostly cloudy. So it's very difficult to get like, accurate data sets. So I think if those monsoon regions has a lot of cloud cover, I think Sentinel data can help a lot to, gather accurate information. And for remote sensing dataset, I think depending on the study area size, I think we can incorporate like 30 meter, 5 meter, 15-meter resolution, depending on the availability, depending on the desired outcome, like how precise we want our mapping. Yes, I think
Right.
that's.
Yeah. No, yeah, that gives a very concrete idea of what we can expect if someone wants to do like a flat susceptibility analysis. I'd like to just take away like one issue that I like to highlight is that this flat susceptibility concept, especially with the sort of advent of Google Earth Engine, I've seen a lot of different analysis, some using Sentinel, using that platform. However, I feel like some of the nuances or some of the details that you just talked about are often not sort of considered in those flat susceptibility maps, and that's where like we as researchers we need to be more careful and really thinking about like the parameters and the techniques that you were just mentioning in as part of the paper, and sort of take into that consideration before sort of like throwing away a flat substitutary map. Uh, so yeah, that's just one point I'd like to highlight. So so moving on, I know that another focus of our podcast is sort of bringing forth the sort of like the human behind the researcher.
Mhm.
So if we just go into a bit into sort of your personal journey, uh, and like what are some of the lessons that like you can tell us our tell us our readers, our listeners who are a lot of them are like aspiring researchers, or they want to sort of pursue academia or go into like PhDs and all that. So so yeah, a bit of your personal experience on your research journey.
Okay. So I think one thing I want to mention when I started my PhD, uh, taking coursework like what I want to do in my research, like what type of methodology do I want to go in social aspect? Do I want to go technical aspect? What are the aspect do I want to pursue in my PhD? So I think that is important. So if you have focus, I think gathering a lot of skill set that helps me a lot, like taking Python, R, or data science, like more of the technical courses, so that I know that I'm going to be using those in my research. So I was gathering skill set. So I think if someone know that, okay, I want to do GIS, I want to do remote sensing, I want to incorporate machine learning, data science with GIS and remote sensing, so gathering skill sets from the first of your academic career, I think that is really helpful. That will be really helpful, like when you start your academic career. And also, I think communication is networking is one of the key aspect that helped me a lot in my career. So talking with people, being somewhat active in researchgate, reading more state of the art research, what is happening in your subject, how people are incorporating those data sets, how people are incorporating new data sets and new techniques. So I think keeping updated with the new research, having a good network skill with professors, research community, and gathering all the skill sets that we want to pursue in our academic career. Those things actually helped me in my PhD journey. So people who are trying to come into academia, trying to do PhD or higher studies, I think those things they want to keep in mind to help them in their journey.
Right. Yeah. I'd like to, and this has been like a recurring advice from most of the researchers who have come into my platform, is that the importance of networking and sort of staying open towards like talking to people, staying open to opportunities, I think those are really important, and that's why like conferences can be like a very good opportunity
Yes.
for that. I know sometimes, like if especially if you're from the developing world, like having accessibility to a lot of these conferences are difficult. However, I've seen like recently a lot of the sort of like online workshops or sort of like hybrid workshops are available. Like for example, AGU has an opportunity where you can just do it hybrid, right?
Yeah.
And it has like very good mentoring, like networking platforms, like I think Mentor 365 or something like that. So where you can also get like personalized advice from like people in your field who are going there. So when there's a will, there's a way. I think sometimes if you want to sort of
Yeah.
find a way, you can definitely like find that. Um, so so Tanya Appu, like just we're almost at the end, but I just want to know about a bit more about your like future research directions, like your PhD in general, like what you want to achieve from it, or uh, like where you sort of see the research, and maybe also you are yourself as a researcher in like 2 or 3 years or 5 years maybe.
Okay. Okay. So right now I'm working in urban flood susceptibility in Miami-Dade County in my next project. So yeah, in my maybe next month, I mean 3, 4, 5 years or in future, in near future, I want to see myself as a maybe leading researcher in flood community. So that we can identify urban flooding more accurately. We can help urban planners to prioritize their resources. We can help decision makers, like how urban areas should be planned to reduce future losses. And also we can get connected, like science and policies. These are two different streams that needs to be connected to reduce future losses, to make the community more resilient. So yeah, I want to be a leading researcher so that I can help the community.
Right. Yeah. So I'd like to sort of reinstate your point that you made about science and policy. So I think that is also like one of the main aims why when I was like starting off this podcast, one of the main reasons why I was sort of very interested in sort of doing sort of something like this is because of the fact that sometimes science is just a paper. Like it stays within the console of a paper. Sometimes researchers some of us researchers are very like a lot of the researchers are actually introverted people. They don't really want to come
Yeah.
forth and talk about their research, but I think that also creates an issue that you were talking about, like science and policy, right? Sometimes if we don't communicate our science to the correct stakeholders or even like the mass people in general, then sometimes it's very hard to sort of bring anything good about from your research, right? So I just to like reinstate your point that you made about sort of communication and trying to sort of highlight your research and sort of uh, maybe like
Yeah.
maybe in even audiovisual like podcasts or like even videos that
Yeah,
would be.
that is a good point. One thing I want to mention, Monojit, that this is a very sad part, though. However, I want to mention that urban flooding is getting very catastrophic nowadays, and every year it's increasing, like $1 billion of loss that U.S. and other countries count. However, after COVID, I live in Miami, and Miami is getting expanded like in a way like it just boom. So nowadays, though urban flooding is happening, though every year, like starting from April and the end of September, it's like every day there is rain. However,
Mm,
there is a lot of still apartments, high-rise buildings are still happening, still building up in Miami. So, the way land cover is like changing in next 5 or 10 years, it will be more catastrophic. So,
mhm,
we people, like we scientific researchers should, researchers should more communicate with policymakers so that this can this can have a good plan, because the consequence will going to be very catastrophic, because all the new buildings, new apartments are building up, and inside the sea, like very closer to the sea level, there's a lot of high-rise building, like you will see different advertisement, like
yeah,
sea view rooms, hotels, and everything.
yeah.
So that seems in a sense lucrative. However, it's very catastrophic for the environment, for the people, for the future. So yeah, so we need to be more, communicative with research and policies and communicate so we can, minimize like losses like due
Exactly.
to urban
Yeah,
flooding.
absolutely. And then yeah, thank you for making that point. I think that's very valid, and I think that's one of the key reasons why sometimes it's very hard to understand your role as an academic. Like, why are we doing this, or why it's. I think there is like a world beyond the papers we write. It's often for like degree requirements, but I think there are different aspects, and I think your research is one of the is one example where you see that sometimes you can sort of get a lot out of like even a review paper, because often like review papers, even for general people, like if for someone who is not a specialist, the first few papers that they read are often review papers, because they want to get an understanding of the general understanding of what's happening in the field, right? So therefore I'd like to sort of highlight again how important your paper is, and congratulations on getting it published. Yeah. So yeah, just I'd like to end it there, and sort of just to reinstate the fact that we need to remain open about our research, and communicate more, and try to sort of really get our heads up there. So yeah,
Mhm.
if you don't have anything to add, would like to end there, Tanya.
Thank you, Manojit. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.